Celebrating 30 years of phenomenal trend forecasting, 5 times a week, Monday through Friday. Here's Gerald Celente with today's trends in the news.
Hi, this is Gerald Celente. It's Wednesday, April 5th, 2017, and here are some of today's trends in the news on the market front. Over there in Asia, it's up. Over there in Europe, boop. FTSE's up a bit, but everything else is down in Europe and in the States. And down more than it looks. So what do we have here? Stocks close 40 points lower, and the S&P posts the biggest one-day reversal in 14 months. So what happened? Well, the Dow was way up there. It did a 240-point reversal. It went up on the news that the jobs numbers look better, according to one of the research groups, but the real number will be out on Friday. And then it did a reversal because the Fed minutes came out, and the Fed minutes said they're going to start tapering back. That's right, they got to get rid of all that debt that they built up, the Federal Reserve, from $800 billion to $4.5 trillion. In order to boost the equity markets and make those biggers bigger, especially they're too big to fail. So now they're worried. How are they going to do it? Because as we've been showing on Trends in the News, this is uncharted territory. Never had this problem before. Just like they made up quantitative easing, just how they made up zero interest rate policy. And people say, yeah, you said this thing was going to crash. You're right, I did. But I had no idea, Junior, they were going to make up a thing called quantitative easing or zero interest rate policy, Junior. And now they don't know how to get rid of all this debt that they piled on, Junior. Uncharted territory. Now the market's going in reversal. Why? Well, another reason why. Tokyo shares dip as Trump rally wanes. Today's Financial Times. Japanese stocks have erased all of their gains for the year as brokers warn that the benchmark Nikkei 225 average faces becoming the first big victim. Of the Trump rally. But because you're TrendsJournal subscribers, and we've been telling you all at the end of last week and Monday and yesterday to get ready for the trend alert, you had history before it happens. Trend alert, trend alert. When Dow dives, economy will tank. Buy or sell. And this is part of what we wrote. To date, while still shy of 100 days in office, we find scant evidence that the height of these lofty Trump goals will be scaled. The Trump goals being massive deregulation, big tax cuts, and a lot of money spent on the infrastructure rebuilding and bringing jobs back home. Thus, we forecast that the 10% S&P gain is on trend to devolve to a 10% decline. And we also talk about gold. So that's our trend alert, history before it happens. So gold ended up basically flat today on those job numbers. It went down $10 after the Fed minutes. It ended up basically flat. And on the oil front, of course, this will be a huge surprise to everyone. Of course not, because as subscribers to the Trends Journal and listening to Trends in the News each weekday night, you know that we've been forecasting this for how long? 2 years? Oil prices closed down as a surprise increase in U.S. crude inventories rose to a record high, offsetting an outage at the largest UK North Sea oil field. Prices rose early, then turned negative after the U.S. government reported a weekly rise in crude inventories of 1.6 million barrels. Analysts had expected a decrease of 435,000 barrels. U.S. gasoline prices fell into negative territory after heating oil futures paired gains as EIA reported less than expected decreases in gas and distillate fuel oil inventories. Of course, that's the Energy Information Administration. So, all that OPEC and non-OPEC members agreeing to cut back on supply, it's not working. We're in that range of oil prices. As we say, the low 30, the high 60, we're stuck near 50. And what else do we have here? You know, Trump is deregulating things, particularly he's going to bring coal back. Well, Adani bets on Australian solar farms as coal battle looms. Adani Enterprises, which wants to build one of the world's biggest coal mines in Australia, plans to invest $2 billion to $3 billion Australian dollars in solar power plants in the country over 5 years as it further diversifies its business beyond India. Again, not only is there no such thing as clean coal, we're going to start seeing more and more energies replace oil, gas, and other coal and other old-fashioned fuels. No doubt about it. And more shocking news. Top Fed officials steps down and blow to bank's credibility. Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond President Jeffrey Lacker unexpectedly stepped down Tuesday after revealing his involvement in a 2012 leak of confidential information that sparked a criminal investigation, prompted outrage on Capitol Hill, and deeply embarrassed the Fed. This is not the first time Fed officials have been accused of leaking information. We wrote about it in back Trends journals. So, blow the bank's credibility? What credibility does the Federal Reserve have anyway? A mob. That's all it is, a money mob that enriches the very rich and makes the rest of us poor with their zero and low interest rate policy. There's a war on savers so it could boost the equity markets, and we could go on with this, but we have other trends to follow. JP Morgan Chase Jamie Dimon's trumpets simplified bank regulation. Yep. He's all in favor of Donald Trump's getting rid of that Dodd-Frank, of course. JP Morgan Chase. Follow the money. And on to some other news. Yesterday we read about the chemical attack and showed the picture from CNN. Beyond description, children among the victims of a suspected chemical attack in Syria that killed dozens, group says. And then we said, well, this is what I said. This is the kind of propaganda that they're shoving down the people's throats. You'll probably see a picture like this in tomorrow's toilet paper of record of a wounded child in Syria. Yep. And on trend. There we go. Look at this front page of the New York Times. Hey, look at this whole inside page. Take a look at the Financial Times. Oh yeah, dozens killed in alleged gas attack in Syria. Yeah, look at that Wall Street Journal, huh? Syrian regime accused of using chemical weapon in attack. Accused. Alleged. No proof. So let's look closer at those New York Times story. Go to Consortium News, Robert Parry's site, and read what he says about the prostitutes. that wrote the story. On Tuesday, the Times assigned two of its most committed anti-Syrian government propagandists to cover the Syrian poison gas story, Michael B. Gordon and Ann Bernard. Gordon has been at the front lines of the neocons' regime change strategy for years. He co-authored the Times' infamous aluminum tube story on September 8, 2002, which relied on government sources and Iraqi defectors to frighten Americans with images of mushroom clouds if they didn't support George W. Bush's upcoming invasion of Iraq. The timing played perfectly into the administration's advertising rollout for the Iraq War. And this is the way the New York Times, if you look at this picture, after the United States bombs killed some 230 people, 250 people in Mosul. Yeah, there's a woman, and obviously blood going like this. Horrors on Iraqi's doorstep. A woman's anguish at her son's mortal injury was one of many grim consequences of constant salvos in western Mosul. Not a word that the salvos were from the United States. Not pictures like this of a poor little kid. Not picture after picture of dead bodies. No, you don't see them in Mosul because, hey, the United States is the murderers behind it. Yeah, listen to what President Trump says. Trump has said his attitude toward President Assad in Syria has changed very much, end quote. Quote, it crossed a lot of lines with me. When you kill innocent children, innocent babies with chemical gas, that goes beyond red lines. You could kill them with bombs, but not gas. Yeah, gas, that's so World War I. These heinous acts by the Assad regime cannot be tolerated, added Trump. My attitude towards Syria and Assad has changed very much. What happened yesterday is unacceptable to me. Militarily, I don't like to say what I'm going, when I'm going, and what I'm doing. It's all about him, man. I'm not saying I won't do anything one way or another, but I certainly won't be telling you. No. Why should you tell us? You're the El Presidente. The hypocrisy of this. Syria's denying it. They say they hit one of these ISIS's places that had chemicals in them. There's no proof. And the lie that they used chemical weapons before has been shown to be a lie, but they still report it as though Syria used chemical weapons. Just like those Russians invaded Ukraine. Yeah, same kind of propaganda. The war drums are beating louder. It's stepping up. Chemical attack in Syria kills dozens. Assad regime widely blamed for bombing. Widely blamed by who? By the propagandists, by the murderers. Don't kill them with gas when you could kill them with bombs. This is Gerald Celente, and that's some of today's trends in the news.